I got Ralph Wiedner sitting here with me today. He's dropped in. We had a few guys come in for lunch today, and there's been quite a bit of debate going on about some of the specifics surrounding, I know, your tenure with Chrysler. Why don't you just explain a little bit who you are, what you did, and some of the stories, some of the things surrounding the AARs, the things that they did to the different cars at the dealerships, and just some of the stories that nobody really ever gets to hear.
Well, I've spent most of my life in the automobile industry. I went to work for Chrysler in, let's see, that would have been 1967, and I retired in 1994. I had various jobs, business manager, regional truck manager, and I was district manager in 4 different districts.
Also, make sure you show them the nice little piece of jewelry there and explain to them what that is. If you
yes. I have a Chrysler ring that I won. In 1970, I was the #1 district manager in the United States. I sold more against my quota than any other district manager. And my wife and I won a nice trip to the Bahamas in December of that year.
Very neat.
So, basically, I won that because I sold more trucks than anybody else in the nation. And I did that because I partnered with the dealers and we won the state of Kentucky bid that year. I also am the owner of a 1971 Dodge Challenger convertible, and that's how I met Dave here at the Monster Mopar. And we got to talking about my car and about some of the things that happened as my tenure in Chrysler. One of the things that happened is the TA program. Now back then we had a Dodge division and a Chrysler Plymouth division. So and we got into this game late in for that particular sanctioning body for the Trans Ams. So Chrysler built all these cars ahead of time, put them in sales bank, shipped them to the zone offices, and all the district managers had to drive them and sell them used as is. Now the dealers did get the MSO, so they could still sell the cars as new. It could be titled as new because they had the MSO. Personally, I sold 13 of these Challenger TAs to my dealers in the Evansville district, which covered western Kentucky and southern Indiana.
And who was the gentleman that we talked to earlier today that you called?
My friend Bernard Klein, who was the district manager in the Terre Haute district. One night we did a program at the high school in Madisonville, Kentucky, and we each were driving a Trans Am at the time, or TA at the time. We didn't call them Trans Ams, they were just Challenger TAs. And we did a program at the local high school in conjunction with the dealer. And on the way home that night, Bernard and I got into a little race on the Pennyrile Parkway, and of course I'm an old drag racer, so I absolutely just went around him and beat him. He wasn't that good. But all of the Trans Ams and all of the Cudas were sold used as is. We drove them. We were supposed to drive them 500 to 1,000 miles. Some of the guys drove them a little less. That was a little unscrupulous, but some of the guys, especially the older guys, didn't like driving the hot rods, so they would do whatever it took just to get out of them. And because it wasn't prime merchandise at the time. They were, those cars were sales bank cars, and we sold them. They were kind of distressed merchandise, but we had to get so many on the street in order to make the car legal for the sanctioning body. Sam Posey was our driver at that time.
And somebody had asked, there was a car that's out there with like 170 something miles on it, and they were asking, well, how do you explain that? If this 500-mile mandate, or whatever you want to call it, if that wasn't put into play?
Well, some of the guys cheated. So it's that simple. They didn't want to drive them, so they would just get rid of them how they could. And they were all sold at a discount too. They were not sold as a brand new car.
And was this all across the board?
This was nationwide, because the sanctioning body required so many of them to be on the street at the time. So getting into that particular race, that sanctioning race, that late in the year, required that we do things a little bit differently. So they built them all ahead of time, and we drove them all. None of them were sold as new.
And then some of the things I know we talked about. Give some of the things your dealership. I think you guys were right across the street from St. Annie. You were talking about some of the different things that I think Gene Gerber, I believe you said, was the owner.
Right.
Some of the different things that they would do to these cars to sell them.
Well, St. Ann Dodge was right across the street from the zone office at the time. We were at Northwest Plaza, and all of our company cars would get delivered to that dealership because we didn't have a place in our office, which we were an office building, to store these cars. So we stored them at the dealership. And I back then was, being an old drag racer, was drag racing. I had a 1968 Charger that I ran in C-stock automatic. Happens to have been a record holder. The name escapes me right now, but anyway, old Dick Landy was doing performance clinics for us, and he helped me set the car up, and that made it a very consistent winner. But St. Ann Dodge did a lot of work on the car for me. I was in Evansville, Indiana, and I was traveling, and of course the car was back here in St. Louis, and they would take care of the car. So I became very well acquainted with a lot of the people at the dealerships. Now, in 1969, we decided that we wanted to do something big in NASCAR. The Charger 500s weren't quite doing it for us, so we built, as what we know today, the Daytona 500, the wing car. And we built 503 of those in the Dodge division because they were 1969 models. We built them at the end of the year, and those two were sales bank cars. We built them ahead of time, and it was at the very end of the year, and they sent them to, I believe it was Creative Industries, to put the nose on it and put the wing on it. Those cars were, the dealers considered them to be ugly. They were distressed merchandise. A lot of times we just had to actually force the dealers to take the cars. Now you mentioned St. Ann Dodge and Gene Gerber. He had a one, I know it was a white one with red stripes that he took for stock, and he had it for a long time and couldn't sell it. So the guys, and I didn't witness this. I know the car was there, but I didn't witness this later. But some of the guys at the dealership told me that in order to sell it, the dealer took the nose off and took the wing off, converted it to a regular Charger, and then threw the wing and the nose away in the trash.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But the dealers would do a lot of funny things to get the car sold, like Vanderveer Dodge in Evansville, Indiana. He had a blue one, and in order to sell it, he had to paint it yellow. Which
what was the one you were talking about? Really odd color that was a mistake. Green top or
a lot of times the factories would make mistakes. They would they weren't as sophisticated as we are today. Bernard Klein, who I mentioned earlier, his first field car when he moved down here from Belvedere was a Charger, and it was Hemi orange with a green top and a green interior. And obviously the dealer refused to take it, and I don't blame him a bit because it was really ugly. Bernard drove it for a while, and then he actually sold it, I believe, to Vigo Dodge, and I don't know what happened to it after that, but a car like that would take an extreme discount for a dealer to buy it.
Wow.
Personally, I had a Monaco in 1969, which was a maroon color, and it had a green alligator top and a green interior. And I had to just promise my firstborn in order to sell this thing to Vanderveer Dodge, and he put it on his used car lot. I don't know how long he kept it, but eventually he sold it.
Well, the other thing too, just show some of the information you've got here and explain that Challenger, because I thought that was so intriguing. Who had it before you, the story behind it, and how you ended up getting it.
Well, this is, and I brought this just for the heck of it, these are original press kit pictures of the '71 Challenger. That's what we would have sent to the newspapers. And since I had this Challenger, I kept these two. This is the original order form for that car. And as you can see, it was ordered as a field car. The district manager who ordered it, his name is Gary Howe. He's dead now. It was delivered to Holford Dodge, and it was for Miss Illinois. This is the delivery receipt showing that car delivered to the dealer, Holford Dodge, in Alton, Illinois. And this part here is a copy of the factory invoice. And as you can see on the invoice, it says that it was a promo car for Miss Illinois. She was a student at SIU.
Yeah, right there.
And she drove it for 6 months and then had to turn it back in. And it's It was built to look like the Indy Pace car. This, of course, if you'd like to see it, is my purchase agreement from the zone office to buy this car.
Well, and if you don't mind, I'm going to get scans of all this stuff.
Sure.
I love to keep records of everything that we got here.
Fine. As you can see over here on the left, what I paid for this car was $3,055, and this would have been the dealer price right here, what the dealer would have normally paid for this car.
Okay.
This is also as a copy of my installment contract to show when I bought the car. And
so you definitely kept a lot of good records on it.
Absolutely. I don't know if this is any good, but that was the broadcast sheet. I found it when I put the new seat covers on it this past year, along with some tags showing when the interior was actually built. I don't know, you probably can't see that, but the interior was those seats were actually built in March 29th, 1971, and the car wasn't really built until April.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do, Ralph, was rather than type a book to some of these guys, I figured we can upload this to YouTube and actually kind of let them meet you in person, so to speak. But I appreciate you coming out today and being able to do all this and explain some of the things. And I know there's a ton more, but without taking up too much time, thanks for coming out and with everything that we talked about today.
Well, back in the day, we built. Chrysler was known as the #1 custom car builder of all the car builders in the United States at the time. So we built a lot of different things.
Wow, really neat. Well, thanks a lot. I certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome.